Yo, yo, yo. Happy Thursday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Miami Call-In Show. I'm your host, Jaden Gonzalez. And again, happy Thursday. Yesterday, National Signing Day. Great day for the Miami Hurricanes. Got all the guys that you wanted. Another really good recruiting class from Mario Cristobal. Things are trending upwards in the recruiting class. Things are trending upwards in what the team will look like in the near future. And this season, there's still hope and there's still belief and there's still some belief that this team can make the playoffs with everything that transpired on Tuesday. On Monday, me and Shay argued and debated everything that went on, what we think will go on within the College Football Playoff Committee and what's in their heads. And we both said and we both agreed that Miami would likely stay at 12 because the things that you had wanted to go your way didn't really go your way between Oklahoma beating LSU, Alabama beating Alabama winning against Auburn, the things that didn't happen in the ACC, whatever the case may have been, you expected Miami to probably stay at 12, and they did. But you got more words from Hunter Yurchek. You got more words from the committee about where Miami might be, on Sunday, on Selection Sunday. And I would say I wouldn't necessarily have your hopes all the way up, but I will say from 0%, I'm up to a decent percent where there may be a world where we do get in. Obviously, deserving to get in is a different story than will we get in. If you were to ask me right now, will we get in? I probably would say no. Should we get in? Whole different story. And I'll get into that in a little bit before I, obviously open the chat, the floods, open the calling lines to you guys. But I would say that they probably wouldn't make the playoffs just for the fact of what we're seeing right now. It's not looking great. The committee's got their own narratives or their own ways to kind of spin certain things. The fact that what you heard on Tuesday, that Alabama moved up one spot over Notre Dame because they looked good in the first half against Auburn, is just kind of crazy. Let me post the call-in link right now. My apologies. Click on the link. You put it into the web browser. You get in from that. I know I wish you had a call in, like a phone call, but that's the way we do it here. Click on the link, put in the web browser. I'll put you up whatever question you have, recruiting class, college football playoff, the team as a whole. I'm willing to hear whatever you guys got to say. I love the way the team, what Radakovich and what Mario's doing right now. I love the way that they've been talking. They've been, I guess, forcing their way into every college football show to speak their case. It tells you the craziness of this sport right now, where you're having coaches starting to starting to come on talk shows and come on different shows to sway the media and sway different people. Hey, we deserve to be in. Hey, we deserve to be in. But that's the sport. That's the way the sport is going right now. And look, I personally am of the belief that we should be in. Will we is another story. If you were to ask me right now what you should be rooting for on Saturday, as a whole, which I know has been talked about at length and ad nauseum, I would personally go of the opinion that obviously right away you need BYU to lose by, in my opinion, significant margin, enough of a margin where BYU drops to 12. I think you should want Alabama to beat to beat Georgia again, so that the top 9 stays solidified. And if BYU were to lose and fall, Miami moves to 11, Notre Dame at 10. It's kind of hard to ignore, one team at 11, one team at 10. The resumes are so similar. There was a head-to-head game being played on, that was played on August 30th, and one team got it over the other. So if I were to give you potentially that would be the only scenario. And if you want to throw in maybe something else to sweeten the pot, maybe Duke beating Virginia and JMU winning, so that, JMU gets one of the at-large spots, one of Tulane and North Texas gets an at-large spot, or gets a conference spot. And then on the flip side, you get, 10 and 11, Notre Dame, Miami. I know they keep talking about, currently Notre Dame's above Miami, but they say that things aren't set in stone. Gives you a little bit more hope. The betting odds keep going up. I don't know. This is one of the few years where you really don't know what the committee is going to do. It's so weird. Everything that we've been seeing so far makes zero sense at all. So, let's get going with the call-in show and get everything going. Our first guest is Tyson. How you doing, Tyson?
What's going on, man?
How you doing?
Pretty good. So, and I know that it's just whatever as far as the CFP goes, but how can you, or Hunter Yurachek, whatever his name is,
Mhm.
gushing over the Auburn win? But Louisville is a bad team that beat Kentucky 41-0. And that same Kentucky team beat Auburn.
Yep. Yep.
Texas took that Kentucky team took Texas to overtime.
Yep.
To me, and they make it about, oh well, it's going to stop big game non-conference games from happening, but that's not the case. They have a set criteria that they're supposed to go by. But the issue that I have is that they are on these shows and all of these broadcasts, but nobody gets to fact check any of the things that they say. Why are they able to spew this nonsense and everybody's like, okay, well, that's just how it is. I guess biases are allowed, but fact check what they say. Well, how come Auburn is a 5-win team and Alabama gets the benefit of a doubt over them, but Louisville beat that same team or beat the team that beat that team 41-0, and now all of a sudden that's a bad loss.
Mm-hmm. I'm in a 100% agreement with you. I think it's dumb. I think it makes no sense. I think if you were to, like, the way that it feels like the committee does these things, it feels like they do their rankings, and then when they know what questions are going to be asked by ESPN and whoever, I think they come up with some narrative in their head to spin it. In reality, I think Alabama probably should have been above Notre Dame like weeks ago, and they only course corrected on Tuesday so that if Alabama were to lose to Georgia, they wouldn't get knocked out of the playoff. I think they wanted Alabama at 9 so that even if they lost, they stay in. They wanted some reason to say that, but they didn't want to make that, you don't want to say the loud part. So they come up with some BS reason and say they look good in the first half. They learned how to run the football against a 5-win Auburn team that took them to the brink for the entirety of that game. Again, I think the SEC bias is clearly there.
Oh, wow.
It's
Yeah.
all the way there. As much as, like, when we're looking at some of these teams in the top 12, I think, Oklahoma is the team I look at the most. I understand they have a win against Alabama. I understand they have, statement wins. Ole Miss, they have good wins, but they have not looked like a quality, football team, a playoff team over the last few weeks since John Mateer got hurt. And when he came back, when you lose to Texas and the way they did, and their offense just looks really weak. It's a very weak offense that has been shown. Their defense is great. Their offense is really bad right now. They can't really run the football. They can't really throw. They got taken to the brink by LSU last week. They kind of struggled against Missouri. They don't look all that good, but unfortunately, I don't see a world where they can kind of knock them out at all because they have the wins and they've played their way into the playoffs, so they're deserving of it. But I don't know. The bias is clearly there. Why is a team like BYU, who's a one-loss team, in the death right now of if we lose, we're out? Like seeing all these SEC teams in when they're really not that good doesn't make a lot of sense. Like even in when you're seeing some of these ACC, SEC teams playing on Saturday, Clemson beat South Carolina. Louisville, as you said, destroyed Kentucky. They destroyed Kentucky.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I don't get it, man. I mean, and I don't want to hold up the show because I know there's probably other people that are trying to get in. But the last thing that I want to say is if Alabama can get that kind of a boost from playing a rival, how come Miami isn't getting that same boost from playing a ranked Florida State that beat Alabama by 2 scores?
Yeah, and Alabama's a team that lost by 2 scores to FSU week 1, but they're going to start saying that week 1 doesn't matter. It's all a game at this point of like, they're ignoring certain things on purpose and they're putting certain things in on purpose. They honor the head-to-head in some way and they don't on the other way. They value quality losses, but then they don't value. The committee makes no sense. There's no consistency. There's such a lack of it in all aspects of it. And it feels like it's so dumb that we have to have Mario come on different podcasts and prove and like you have to like, I guess, beg these teams to let us in on Sunday. It's crazy. It's crazy how the sport is right now.
Yeah. Well, bro, I appreciate it. Hey, I love the show. Keep up the good work. Go Canes.
Go Canes. Thank you. Thank you, Tyson. Thank you guys. Thank you for Tyson who came in. I'm going to post the StreamYard link again. We'll read some of the comments. They do not even they don't consider it. They don't consider the week 1 game. They don't consider but on Texas's, if you were looking at Texas, you could say well, if Texas was a 2-loss team and they didn't schedule Ohio State, maybe Texas is in. I actually think that might be true. I think Texas would be in. Are they deserving of being in? No. Texas lost to Florida, a bad Florida team. I don't think Texas deserves to be in. But they have a case because before that loss to Georgia, they were number 10 in the country. They were number 10 in the country because of that loss to Florida and because they had lost to Ohio State. If they didn't lose to Florida, or if they didn't lose to Ohio State, there's a world where Texas maybe is in. And that kind of comes back to that question of, should we even play the games, or why should we schedule tougher non-conference games? For the week one, the whole debate with week one mattering and not mattering is just so dumb, and it makes no sense. We beat Notre Dame on the field. We're going to be right next to each other. You got to honor the head-to-head. You just got to honor. In every single sport, the head-to-head is honored. Every single sport, the head-to-head is honored. In some capacity, the head-to-head is honored. And for some reason, look, Texas' head-to-head is honored against Vandy. Oklahoma's head-to-head is honored against – no, sorry. I don't think that's true. There's head-to-heads that are being honored, and there's head-to-heads that just aren't being honored. And I don't know where we draw the line of what gets honored and what doesn't when you have especially with Miami and Notre Dame, because their resumes are so similar. It just makes no sense. I think they moved. Yeah, that's what I thought that again. I thought it's a couple of things. I think the first one is that if Alabama were to lose, they would have been dropped out of the playoff. Instead, moving them up makes it so that they don't get knocked out of the playoff at all. That they've fully solidified a spot. The other part would be that if Alabama loses, BYU loses, there's not a case for Alabama and BYU to get knocked out and Notre Dame and Miami to get in. It's instead Alabama gets a buffer between, so it'd be Notre Dame at 9, Alabama at 10, or Notre Dame at 10, Alabama at 11, Miami, whatever it is, to prevent Notre Dame and Miami from being right next to each other. That's the way they're doing it right now. They're finding ways, it'd be 9, 10, 11, finding ways to get Miami and Notre Dame to not be right next to each other. I think they're going to be looking for that. I think they're going to find any situation possible for it. And the doomsday scenario for Hunter Yurachek and the CFP would be BYU losing, Duke winning, Alabama losing, and then having to determine of the teams who gets in, who doesn't get in, all these different things. So it's like, it's a total thing. Look, we're talking about the committee because that's what we have to talk about. Like they're never going to show us respect regardless, despite our wins. They're going to continue to have their own biases. Look, Hunter Yurachek's the head of Arkansas, who just hired a new coach. Like there's the 12 guys in there have their own biases. They have their own financial and monetary gain for vying for a team to get in or not. It's just a crazy way of doing all this stuff. It's when you have certain teams that deserve to be in or does not deserve to be in, and you're now balancing different factors. But when you look on the CFP website of what they look at, and head-to-head's the top and common opponents are right there. Like, all I'm saying, though, is that we're talking about the committee because what else is there to talk? Obviously, we have National Signing Day. But we don't have anywhere else to talk about other than will we get in, will we not get in? And we're in full trust of 12 guys in a room making these decisions based on their own biases and decisions. So I don't get it. And yeah, this is what I was talking about with the head-to-head and all the metrics that are involved with it. I want to, like, if you look at all of it, strength of schedule, they're very similar. The Sagarin, the FPI, all the dumb I don't hate FPI, but all the metrics that prove SOR and SOS, and they look at the two stats, and then they even look at preseason AP polls, and they look at all these different metrics. Miami and Notre Dame are still very similar, regardless. You look at head-to-head, Miami won. Common opponents, I believe 3 out of the 4 games, Miami beat the same opponents that Notre Dame did by a greater margin of victory, apart from Syracuse, when Syracuse had a lacrosse player at quarterback. We're like, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Like, these resumes are neck and neck. They have the same record. They've looked equally as good over the last 4 weeks to end the season. What more can you say that has to warrant Notre Dame in over Miami? What from Notre Dame fans right now, what would you say would be the thing that determines it? Oh, that it was played week 1 and they're a different team. We're a different team. That argument, it also makes no sense. It makes no sense. And I agree with you here when Callie Kane, like the way the ACC set it up is really dumb. The fact that it was a 5-way tiebreaker for second place, and then the 5th tiebreaker in the 5-way tie that determined who got in, and then it could have been a 6-way tie if that UVA NC State game back in like week 3 was counted as a conference game. They did it themselves entirely. They should be having Miami and UVA. They should have, it should be the 2 most deserving teams. Instead, when the 5th tiebreaker is opponent conference win percentage instead of, I don't know, CFP ranking, is your team a ranked, what's your record against ranked opponents? What's your record against, I don't know, literally any other stat that would prove Miami to be the top team of that 5? It's crazy, and I don't really have a response. I don't know what we can really do after that. Like, there's rumors of course, of like Miami potentially leaving the ACC or anyone leaving the ACC dissolving on its own. The ACC kind of is doing it to itself, and it will even look even worse for the ACC if Duke wins and no ACC gets and Miami doesn't get in, and 0 ACC teams are represented. Crazy. Having no ACC teams not getting in would be one of the worst looks you could have on the ACC itself, and not having Jim Phillips. Jim Phillips has just not said a word about any of this. For him to not say anything, for them to not kind of push any ACC bias other than the ACC network posting reruns of Miami versus Notre Dame isn't enough. You're seeing the entire team of Vanderbilt just went on a show to prove why, to say why they deserve, or Notre Dame went on a show why they deserve to get in. This is the way college football is working right now. At the end of the day, it really is all about the ratings. And you might see in the years to come, we might see the G5 get totally eliminated. We might see, it might be only 4 at-large conferences instead of 5. You're going to see certain things that are just going to take away from what this makes the sport what it is, or whatever was great about the sport. In all honesty, this is all wiped out if you just do a 4-team playoff. If you just do the top 4 teams, because in my opinion, there's probably only about 4 or 5 teams that are even capable of making a deep run or looking really that good. Kind of eliminates some of that. It kind of eliminates all of it. So I don't know where the conference moves from here. I don't know where I don't know what the conference has to say to themselves when they look in the mirror on Sunday and they see 0 teams in the ACC in the playoff. How do you look in the mirror when you see 5 SEC teams, I think 5 Big 10 teams, and you see 2 Big 12 or whatever you see, and you don't see any ACC? That's going to be a bad look on the ACC part. Might look bad on the CFP committee. I doubt it. I don't think they care at this point. I think they only care about whatever makes them money, which is the SEC, the Big 10, NBC's contract with Notre Dame, the stuff like that. That kind of, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist and ratings are at the end of the day. There's still bias here and there. There's got to be bias wherever it is. But I think Miami is so deserving of it this year than any other year. You could look at last year, right, when we didn't make it. Wouldn't say that we got screwed. I don't think we were deserving enough to make it last year. They lost 2 out of 3 to end the year. Their defense was historically bad. The team was just Cam Ward. This year's team lost their games and had a bad patch in late October to early November. They threw 4 picks against Louisville, and they played bad against SMU in a game they probably should have won as well. Refs didn't help, whatever. But and then they won 4 straight. They rattled off 4 straight in dominant fashion. They played really good football. They just beat a ranked Pitt team by a lot in a game and then a team that said that they didn't care about their game against Notre Dame. We only care about our games against Georgia Tech and Miami. They beat Georgia Tech by a bunch, and then they get blown out by us, a team where we played our best brand of football. Carson Beck looks really, is playing his best brand of football. Malachi Tony's the best true freshman in college football. He's probably one of the best players in college football right now. That's how good he is. Bain and Mesidor on the defense. The team is talented. This is one of the most talented Hurricane teams we've seen in over 20 years. Back-to-back 10-win seasons. And if you have back-to-back 10-win seasons and you still don't make the playoff, that's a massive, massive problem in my eyes. It's like, come on. There's got to be some year where we finally get in, and it's like, when is it our turn, essentially? Like, when will we finally get the what's deserving of us in whatever way? I wanted to pull up this stat. I was pulling it up earlier before we got here, between the rankings between Notre Dame, Miami, and Oklahoma. And I mean, you can see it from here. In the strength of record and the strength of schedule and all these different stats, they're between Notre Dame, Miami, and Oklahoma, they're all very similar. All very, very, very similar in all these stats. All of them are similar. Oklahoma's best win being Alabama is holding the most amount of weight. They're really there because of their win against Alabama, because of their win against, Alabama is obviously their best win, but some of the other games they have. It sucks that it's the comparison between Miami and Notre Dame, because I think Notre Dame is a good team, but now we're in this debate of Miami versus Notre Dame instead of Oklahoma, who kind of has deserved their way into the playoff instead of, where we are right now. It tells you the way the sport is going. It tells you the way that everything is going within the sport. And I don't know what we can do from here. So, but yeah, I'm going to keep posting the StreamYard link. I want to hear you guys got to say specifically. Obviously, the comments are great. I appreciate it all. I want to hear you guys got to say, click on the StreamYard link, put it in the web browser. I want to, if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about. Again, we had a really good National Signing Day, and it sucks that gets totally, blown up because Chris Paul's got to go on his press conference and give his reasoning of why Miami deserves to make it over Notre Dame. And we as fan bases has to, basically just continue to fight for our team to make it over anyone else. The nature of the sport, there's no other sport like college football where you're having all this stuff happening while you're having coaches getting poached left and right. There being like 5 or 6 coaches who have already signed jobs at different places going to the playoffs. Crazy way the sport is going. I don't know how you fix it. I really don't. The way that the scheduling is, the way that the transfer, when the transfer portal opens, when the playoffs are still going on, and they keep saying it's by semester, but you can really change that. Like, there's so many different ways that you can fix and handle all these things. And the fact that they don't, the fact that it's just all this talk about, whatever, essentially, and they ignore the main issues within this sport. It's definitely frustrating. And I think we're going to see it only get a little bit worse, maybe, when they go to 16 teams in the next year or two. And then maybe they get to 24. And then eventually there's just 3 super conferences, or there's 2 super conferences, or it's one playoff that's just SEC and Big Ten, or they find any way that they can exclude, the teams that like in the ACC, they exclude more than half of college football, and because it just means more. It just means more. But when you look at the SEC this year, it is not a very good year in the SEC. It genuinely is not a great year. I also wanted to pull up this one. I think it would be absolutely hilarious if you get no ACC teams, no Notre Dame. It's like 2 Big 12, 5, and then 2 group of 5s. I think it'd be absolutely hilarious for the sport. It'd be chaos. I want chaos at this point. I think if you're guaranteed to not make the playoffs at this point, say that we're not guaranteed. If really the BYU game, as long as BYU doesn't lose by 3, we really can't lose, because if BYU wins, Miami and Notre Dame are out, but Notre Dame goes down. If BYU loses by like 15, you now have a massive debate on Sunday of who gets in between Notre Dame and Miami. And there's a lot of steam for it. There's a lot of media that are really, I guess, clamoring for Miami. I'm liking that. I'm loving the way that media is starting to pick up more and more for Miami, and Notre Dame is starting to kind of be that outlier of, I don't think you deserve it. You're starting to see people that are actually believing that there's no way Notre Dame can get in. It's like a damned if you do, damned if you're not, damned if you don't situation. their steam is picking up. I won't get my hopes up because I think I'm afraid of getting hurt, and I'm afraid that I just don't see it happening. The committee has found a way to kind of screw us over week in, week out. It started when we got ranked at 18, and then the committee was like, "Oh, that's too low. Let's move Miami up like 3 spots for beating Syracuse and Stanford." Okay, sure, but we should have been higher anyway. We should, like, the way that they have to give their reasoning for why Miami should be above these teams instead of saying we messed up, we lack consistency, our system is flawed, because it objectively is flawed. Everything that they do is flawed. Everyone's going to be upset by whatever move they make and whatever decisions they make. The fact that BYU gets penalized for playing a 13th game, they get penalized for it. Why? I don't know what the solution is. You're getting rumors of a play-in game of Vanderbilt wanting to go to Hawaii to schedule a Miami or a Utah for a playoff. Like, that's just, it's the way this sport is crazy. I wouldn't have it any other way, but at the same time, it's like, there's got to be something. There's got to be some regulation to it all. The transfer portal is nuts. The paying players is nuts. The NIL is crazy. It's the wild, wild west. I don't know if there's a way where do you go from here? Essentially, where do you go? How do you move forward? And also, how do you move forward if the committee puts Notre Dame over Miami and sets a precedent in the next few years, when you see a head-to-head game, 1 spot left, and you don't take that team that's right behind them? How do you warrant that? How do you then set that precedent up in the near future? How do you set that precedent up in the next few years? I don't know. I got no idea. Post the streamer link again. 1 second. Again, keep comments in. Come on, whatever you guys got to say. I'm open to hearing anything and everything. And if we're good here, I'll get into a little bit of the National Signing Day, because I think it was a very good class that was kind of overshadowed by everything that went on Tuesday and the consistent debates that we're having on a daily basis. It feels like I've had to speak about it every single day now, about why Miami may not make it, or why Miami didn't even get into the ACC championship game because of a 5th tiebreaker. Just the way the sport is going. But yesterday, Miami getting, how many guys was it? I believe 30 commits. 1 5-star, obviously, with Jackson Cantwell, a bunch of 4 stars, a bunch of 3 stars, another really good class, top 10 class according to 247, a damn good class, number 1 in the state of Florida, number 1 in the ACC. We're on another level compared to schools in the state and schools in the ACC. Just, we're currently on another level. Obviously, Virginia Tech's going to start getting up there when James Franklin gets his portal guys. Obviously, the portal, Miami's got to hit in. They got to do a really good job in. So we'll see. Thank you, Falconer, for the 199 super sticker. Always great to have you on. Last year, every team that won the head-to-head, it's the head-to-head is being valued in certain cases, but not being valued in other. It doesn't make sense. Again, they have Texas over Vanderbilt because of the head-to-head. They don't have Miami over Notre Dame because of the head-to-head. I don't make it make sense. Make it have have it make some sense. They have Oklahoma over Alabama because of the head-to-head. I would just want some sense. I just want some consistency. I want there to be something. You could even look at the Ole Miss stuff. Like, if Ole Miss, I wonder what happened if Lane Kiffin didn't coach the Egg Bowl, and if Ole Miss lost the Egg Bowl without Lane Kiffin, they don't make it. If Ole Miss won by a little bit without Lane Kiffin, they probably don't make it. But because Lane coached the Egg Bowl, they don't have any data points to prove that Ole Miss is not going to be the same team. I don't think they will be. I think Ole Miss is going to look like a totally different team, even with Charlie Weiss Jr. coaching. I don't know. I have no idea where they go from. I don't know if it sets a different precedent than the FSU stuff from a couple of years ago. At least they saw data points on the FSU, but it did feel like at the end of the day, the FSU kind of got screwed over too, because they were deserving of that spot. They won a conference championship. I think from that point, from seeing what happened to FSU in 23, I understand the Jordan Travis injury, but the fact that they won their conference and went undefeated and did everything that they had to do and they didn't make the playoff, you could kind of tell from that point on the ACC was not really being respected. You can kind of tell from that point that the fact that, because the AC wasn't, from that point, they're like, the AC is not being respected. Kind of see that in the next few years. They kind of tried rewriting that ship last year when SMU made it over Bama, but I think that's because of a precedent for conference champions. And it's like, it's this whole game that they're trying to like piece together. And they're saying on Sunday, well, what move can we make that will cause the least amount of drama in the next few years? So we're not setting ourselves up for even more chaos than we are right now. And one of them is potentially, continuing, knocking teams for playing a 13th game, for head-to-head not mattering, even if the game was being played in week 1, which you might be seeing more really big games being played in November instead of week 1. All these different factors starting to change because of the way the committee bases their reasoning for certain things. It's just a way, I don't know. I'm keep being a dead horse. It's kind of the way the sport is going right now. You have to kind of adapt to the way that the committee bases things, and the committee is going to change, and that committee might have a different reasoning. They said last year that idle teams don't move. I believe, I forgot who the guy was, and he was like, idle teams don't move at all, no matter what happens on Conference Champions Week. That was the precedent they set. This week, Hunter Yurchek kind of like idle teams can move. Kind of. Gives us a little more hope than saying no, but I also don't think he's allowed to say no. So, how do you gauge what we should be doing from here if you're Miami? How do you gauge it? So I don't know. Yeah, that's the other thing, that if you want to be more positive on like where we are, it's a positive sign. Josh Pate, you've got, I even saw Kirk Herbstreit, the On 3 guys, the 247 guys. Majority of the pundits, even Coward, I don't even know if there's someone that isn't saying that Notre Dame I don't actually know anyone that's saying that Notre Dame should be in over Miami other than like Joey Galloway. I don't know how many of these people, like, it feels like no one is, on Notre Dame's side right now. Having that kind of media pressure could help. Again, it could set them knowing that it could set a bad precedent in the future, it being bad for the sport. Positive signs are there. Again, don't get your hopes up. I really don't believe we should get our hopes up, because we've been screwed over. We've been screwed over so many times. That's the whole point of being a Hurricane fan. You're being screwed over by the committee. So it's like, yeah, even Feinbaum. Thank you, Falconer. Even Feinbaum. Thank you for the 305. The committee is stupid, have AI picked. Yeah. At this point, I mean, Hunter Yurchek, no, I think Hunter Yurchek and them I said this, to the caller that we had. I think Hunter Yurchek probably, and the committee knows exactly what they're doing beforehand. And then after the fact, they make their narrative, or they make their own reasoning for why one team moved up over the other. It was course correction for Alabama to move up over Notre Dame. It was so that Alabama doesn't get eliminated from the CFP, win or lose, or with a loss. Now, with a potential, because of that, now it sets up all that kind of stuff, and it's like, yeah, I think they know what they're doing. I think Hunter Yurchek knows what he's doing, and then he's going to come up with dumb reasoning and dumb excuses for it all. Like then he goes and says, well, Alabama looked really good in the first half against Auburn, which they didn't. They lost. They probably should have lost that game. You had Isaiah Horton, of all guys, getting 3 touchdowns in that game, and Auburn being Auburn, doing what they did, and the SEC also not looking very good, but the committee not caring. So, how do you explain that? How do you explain his reasoning for certain things? Him saying a few weeks back, if Miami wins out, and if Miami wins in dominant fashion, good things will happen. Well, good things haven't happened, because we're still number 12 in the country. And if Miami were to move up over Notre Dame, why hasn't it happened? What should we wait until Sunday for that to happen? if you wanted to make that move, why are we waiting until Sunday to make that move? Like, you've had Notre Dame over Miami for like 3 weeks now. Why now? Why they've talked about them being in clusters and being Notre Dame, BYU, and Alabama, and they got put on the fourth of those teams. It's like, where's the reasoning in that? Where's the logic in that? Doesn't make any sense. If you wanted to move Miami over to Notre Dame, you could have done it on Tuesday. You could have done it the week before. Why do I have to wait until there's a buffer team in between them? Why should I wait for that? If you believe that Miami should be over Notre Dame, you put them over Notre Dame. It's like as simple as that. And that's kind of like the drawback that I have of like believing that Miami will get in. Like, if they would have done it, they would have done it now. But the committee's also proven on Selection Sunday that they'll make a drastic change. They'll do a drastic move that they'll take Ohio State. It'll take FSU out over an Alabama team with a loss, or they'll take TCU out in 2014 and put them in, I believe, with Ohio State. Like, they've done it. They've proven it before. They've done it before. I can see a world where they do it again. I definitely can see that. It's crazy that we have to just go through this argument over and over and over and over again. And we, like, the Notre Dame fans, I understand they have to go to bat for them, but majority of them they seem to ignore that a game was played on August 30th. Like, on that, they refuse to believe that a game was played on that day. And then they'll say, oh, it was just a 3-point win. Miami bullied them for 3 quarters. It was total bully ball for 3 quarters. The fourth quarter, but Miami went 3 and out like 4 times in a row. They let them back in the game, and then they made the game close. Miami had a lead from the first quarter. Like, they never lost they never were losing in that football game. They were never losing in that football game against Notre Dame. They held a Heisman candidate, Jeremiah Love, to 10 carries for 33 yards. Like, they picked off CJ Carr. They sacked the hell out of him. They made that defense look really bad. Let's not act like that game was it was a very good win for Miami. It was a very good win for Miami, and Notre Dame gets more credit for that loss than Miami does for that win. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. SC has as bad. Yeah, I don't really disagree with that. I mean, you can even look at the way that Texas A&M had their schedule played. It's kind of crazy. But, like, you look at the SEC standings, right? And I gotta find it. 1 second. Arkansas, awful season from Arkansas, and they made it close, I believe, with Texas A&M, a team that Notre Dame played. You had South Carolina, who was also not very good. I believe made it close with Bama at some point this year. Mississippi State should have beaten Texas. Also had a bad year. Auburn, a bad team that fought to the death against Alabama, who probably could have beaten Georgia had things go their way at certain points in that game. A Florida team that beat Texas. Florida's awful. Team that Miami destroyed, dismantled, played significantly better football than. Kentucky, who just fired their head coach, was really bad all year long, fought to the death with Texas, made things competitive across college football, and got blown out by Louisville. Where's the line? What are we doing? And then LSU, 7-5 season, 7-5, fire Brian Kelly, made it close with Oklahoma despite having backups in throughout the entirety of that game. Tennessee, who was close with Vandy for a little, well, not really. Vandy had that one for most of it, but was ranked for the entirety of that season with 0 wins against teams over 500. All 4 losses they had were against teams over 500. They had 0 wins against a quality opponent. That's a problem. Like, that's a team that was ranked. And then they're giving Vandy credit for saying they beat a ranked Tennessee. They're giving Georgia credit for being that ranked Tennessee. That team was not very good. It was not very good. Look, I understand on the ACC side, it's not the best. The ACC side wasn't fantastic this year. Syracuse and Boston College were shockingly bad. UNC was bad. Virginia Tech was bad. Florida State was bad. Stanford was bad. Everyone else was pretty decent. Like, it's hard to say that the conferences were like SEC was significantly higher than the ACC this year. It just was not true. It's just very far from the truth. I just don't see why people. Yeah, I mean that's the Miami. I don't understand that debate either. The Notre Dame has gotten better since week 2. Well, have they gotten better or have they just not played anyone? Their schedule is not great. Their best win is USC, a good win. They've beaten a bad Purdue team, a bad Arkansas team, a quality Boise State team, a decent NC State team, a good USC team, a awful Boston College team who they were essentially within 7 points of each other for the entirety of the game, a decent Navy team, a solid Pitt team, although Pat Narduzzi said they were not trying in said football game, and a Syracuse team with a lacrosse player at quarterback, and a Stanford team that Miami actually beat by a wider margin, and an NC State team that Miami beat by a wider margin. Not wow, this team is awesome the last 10 weeks. What have they done the last 10 weeks that Miami hasn't done over the last 4? And then if you look at Miami since week 1, where that was their first game, Carson Beck over the last 4 weeks has played his best brand of football. He said in the press conference that he feels as close to 100% as he possibly can, something that he hadn't really felt until I think it was NC State or Syracuse. He didn't really feel 100% up until that mid to late November. And now he's playing his best brand of football. The run game with Gerard Pringle kind of being that one with Fletch being healthy again, the 2 looks awesome. CJ Daniels missed a lot of time. Didn't matter. You had Malachi Tony, who's playing again, he's the best true freshman in the country. You have Keelan Marion at the slot playing great ball. You have Joshua Moore and Dalen Upshaw, true freshmen that are stepping up. JoJo Trader, getting rotation minutes. An offensive line who's still elite and significantly better than Notre Dame. A tight end group that over the last couple of weeks has gotten more play between Bowman and Elijah Lofton. On the defense, this is a top 10 defensive unit that Miami has. A top 10 defensive unit that is still better than Notre Dame. Although Notre Dame has turned a corner, I would say defensively, is a better unit defensively. I think Notre Dame is better at running back, and that's it. I think Miami beats them in maybe corner because they have Leonard Moore and Christian Greer, 2 very good players. And not really. They're neck and neck at receiver, and we're in corner. They have 2 big names, but our depth has been elite. Xavier Lucas has stepped up. Audrey Frederic, when he came back, Damari Brown has been awesome. Then you have also in the safeties with Zachariah Poyser, Bryce Fitzgerald, the true freshman in the nickel room. Jacoby Thomas has been awesome. Keontae Scott, when he was healthy, was great. And then they in the defensive lines, they right now have 2 of the best defensive linemen in the country with Bain and Mesidor. And you have Moten, David Blay, Justin Scott, Armando Blunt, Marquise Lightfoot. The team is so talented. This is the most talented team we've seen in the last 20 years. And you can't just say, based on an eye test of, Notre Dame's better. But the game was played on the field, and Miami won that game. And Miami hasn't looked significantly worse or even that much worse than what Notre Dame has put up in the same time frame. The resumes are similar. The numbers are similar. Every single stat is similar. And yet, the fact that we're still having this debate that Notre Dame is in over Miami, when all the media guys are saying Miami should be in because the head-to-head reigns true, is mattering overall, it is crazy that we're still having this debate, that there's still people going to bat for Notre Dame right now. I don't get it. I don't get it. Again, they really have not played anywhere. They have not really showed anything. The only thing that I've seen from them is that their defense turned a corner from the first 2 weeks of the season. And Jeremiah Love, who Miami totally bottled up week 1, 10 carries, 33 yards, is now playing like a Heisman player. Not in week 1. He wasn't week 1, but now he's playing like a Heisman player. Miami stifled him. Miami's defense is a top 10 unit. Their offense, although not better than it was last year, the last couple of weeks have been very good. They asked for consistency from Miami, and Miami gave them consistency. Their numbers, when Miami was asked for consistency, I believe, after their loss to SMU. They put up 42 against Stanford. They put up 38 against Syracuse, 41 against NC State, 34 against Virginia Tech, and 38 against Pitt. I think that's consistency. I think it is. I don't know what more you want from them. I would love to believe this, Falconer. Look, if we make the playoffs, I think we should do helicopters to College Station. And if you schedule us against A&M, I think we win. By the way, I think if we get in, say we get in, and we're the 10 seed playing a 7 seed Notre Dame in College Station, I understand Kyle Field, very hostile environment. I think Miami wins that game. Notre Dame or A&M has not looked great the last couple weeks. They're starting to struggle a little bit more. Don't let us in. Don't let us in. What did Nick Saban say on game day on Saturday? If Miami gets in, they can make a run because of how much danger they are right now. So, it's a ton of pressure on the committee because if they make a drastic move on Sunday and they leave Notre Dame in the event that things happen in the way that we think with BYU losing by a good enough margin, Alabama winning, say Duke wins, a lot of pressure on this committee to do the right thing and to not, I would say, not set themselves up for any more trouble in the near future. Let's just say that. In the near future, setting yourselves up for even more trouble. Shout out Marco Rubio. It's even crazy when you got the Secretary of State, regardless of politics of Marco Rubio, the fact that you got the Secretary of State saying Miami should be in, you got pretty much everyone. I don't know a voice in the media, again, other than Joey Galloway, that is really saying that Miami, I think it's every single person, Kirk Herbstreit, Joel Klatt. You can even look at the Barstool people. They all say Miami should be in. It just, I don't know. I don't know. And and I agree with this, Falconer. If they get in, and I don't know, I don't think they'll get the Orange Bowl if they were to get in, but a natty at Hard Rock Stadium, if they play Ohio State, ooh, that'd be awesome. It'd be cinema. I'll post the link one more time. If we don't, I think we'll wrap it up. I think we've beaten the College Football Playoff Committee by a poll today. And I think we have our own reasons to voice our displeasure. We all should have our own displeasure for it all. Yeah, I was just saying this. It's crazy that Jim Phillips has done essentially nothing. I don't know if Jim Phillips has said a word over the last couple weeks. I don't think Jim Phillips has said anything. I'm looking it up right now. I don't think Jim Phillips has said a word about it all. He set up the new rules of why, he set up the rules into having the 5th tiebreaker of the ACC. He set up the rules, and then the fact that he hasn't made any tweets. Greg Sankey would have been begging the committee. He would have been starting paying the committee. You would have like Louisiana State governors and mayors and all these people starting to make these comments to this. And I saw the Canes Insight tweet that that Jim Phillips hasn't said anything because his daughter goes to Notre Dame. I don't know. But the Big 12 committee is vying for BYU. The Texas Tech coach is vying for BYU. On Miami side, I don't see Jim Phillips saying anything. I see Duke saying things. I see the rest of the ACC saying things. Yeah, again, Manny Diaz was saying stuff. Why is the ACC commissioner not saying everything? Why are they saying anything? Why is nothing being said? Why is Jim Phillips is not doing anything? The most they've done, the ACC network has posted the damn graphics, and then you have the ACC network doing reruns of Miami Notre Dame. Those are great and all. I would like, I don't know, him to go on 3 or 4 different shows and just say, hey, I think Miami should be in. I think, I don't know. I think that would help. I think you would want to have one team represent your conference. If Duke wins and Miami doesn't make it, you have 0 team representing your conference. I think you would want a team to represent the conference. How could they all care about basketball when the thing that makes them more money is football? This whole thing, everything that we do is based around football. Football will always be king. I think basketball is great. It's their number 2 revenue sport. Why do we care about our number 2 revenue sport right now when our number 1 revenue sport is technically in danger of having no teams make the playoff, having 2 G5s make it, having 5 SEC teams make it? Because, well, they actually care. They have guys who are caring about the playoff. They're having people care about who should be in and who shouldn't be. Like, I don't get it. And it's not like the committee, it's not even like the ACC has really helped us. I'm not one about the refs. The refs has not been fair, not been great to us. I thought Pitt was probably their best game for us. Yeah. Greg Sankey will go on every single show. He will contact every single state governor in the conference. We'll go on every single one in the conference and be begging these people, hey, you should start saying some stuff about the SEC teams getting in. Maybe we should get 7 SEC teams in. How about 8? How about we make the entire conference? How about we make the entire playoff SEC? Greg Sankey would 100% do that. So I don't know. I don't know. And that's kind of what I was saying. Like SMU, the refs didn't really help us. Not really. I don't want to blame refs. Don't want to say that we lost SMU because we played way too conservative and we let SMU stay in that game the entire way. They had 12 penalties as well. They shot themselves in the foot a billion times. The refs did not help. They did not help. And when you're trying to have a team make the playoff, it'd be nice if you had a little bit of help. If we get in, are we going to win? I'm high on this team. Obviously, I have my own bias. I think this team can make a run. And if this team at number 10 plays number 7, Notre A&M, I know Kyle Field's a very crazy environment and a very crazy atmosphere. I think Miami can win that game. A&M looked really bad against Texas. By transitive property, Texas A&M beat Texas. Texas lost to Florida. We beat Florida, technically by transitive property. By a lot of the, I don't think we'd be favored for sure. But I do think we would absolutely be in this game 100%. And I think it would be the most watched game. And I think it would be the Friday night game, truthfully. If they would make that I think it'd be the biggest game. I think it'd be 100% the biggest game of that weekend by far. If you put Miami in at 10, Miami A&M would be a classic. It'd be an awesome game. It'd be really fun. It would be really fun to watch. I'll tell you that. And then if you were to win that game, what does that set up the game against Indiana? Or, well, we don't know what the results. I think maybe it'd probably be Georgia, for being honest, or one of the conference champion winners. Because if Indiana loses, I think they fall. And then Georgia would move if they were to win. Maybe it's Georgia, maybe it's Indiana. I don't know. The matchups absolutely match. I mean, Notre Dame, they had that one loss to NIU, had to fight their way back in. They're doing the same thing this year. And they matched up well. They had a game against an IU team that they were just better than. They played Penn State really well. And then they almost lost. They were pretty close to beating Ohio State. Ohio State was really just a better team. But that Notre Dame team was a quality football team by far. And the matchups do matter at the end of the day. I do think they match up well against A&M. I absolutely think they match up well against A&M. And I'm on the belief I think we could beat anyone, anywhere, anytime. Of course, I believe that. It'd be tougher, right? In terms of the teams I really think are really damn good right now, Ohio State and Georgia, the first ones that come to mind. But A&M to me doesn't give me that vibe at the moment because South Carolina took them to the brink, 30-3 at half. 30-3 at half. And then they lose to Texas the week after. Marcel Reed doesn't really look 100%. I think that Texas A&M is not. I think it's a team that is almost limping into the playoff and would be a team Miami could definitely, with the momentum that Miami's carrying right now, the berth to the playoffs would really, really do it. I think it would. I feel good about that. I do believe. So yeah, I'll end it on this. I want to hear what you guys got to say. Let's just final prediction. Do we get in on Sunday? Because airs at 12. Do we get in on Sunday? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say, if BYU were to lose and then you got Alabama winning, I guess. Say BYU loses so that you have this scenario of getting in. I would love to face Ohio State. Getting revenge for 0-2 would be awesome. I was not alive for 0-2. I know how much you guys as fans care about 0-2 that badly. I think it'd be really nice. I have versus the Pope. Yeah. Look. I'm in this kind of belief that I don't want to say the committee's out to get us, but I really don't. I'm trying not to. I want to be really positive about us, but I can't be all the way like, yeah, we're gonna get it. This is the main thing I have right now because of the pushback, because of the media rallying kind of behind Miami, especially if they're right next to each other. I could see it. I could see it. I can see it. I'm definitely not in it's over. I'm definitely not it's over because if we don't, because right now, look, I want to book a flight to College Station right now. I'll be 100% with you. I want to book a flight to College Station right now and cover that game. But I can't guarantee in 100% honesty that they will get in. But I'm loving what you guys are saying that if BYU loses, I can see that. This is the other thing. I would have agreed with you if Alabama stayed at 11. Because Alabama moved to 10, it kind of felt like they were setting it up for Alabama losing and then they don't leave, like they won't get penalized for losing that 13th game. I can kind of see that. But I also see your point that either they're both in or they're both out. I don't really see a world where both actually get in at this moment, but I can definitely see a world where obviously I see the world where they both get out if BYU wins. Hope is the only thing we have. The hope is what kills you. And Falconer, look, I really hope so. If some cardiac canes sprinkling from last year after everything that happened last year, we get that back. Whew, it'd be a nice little thing for us. So, I mean, look, we're gonna see. I think it's gonna be a crazy weekend. Obviously, conference championship weekend doesn't mean all that much, but if it means anything to anyone, Miami's up there and how much it means to them. Again, let's talk about the scenarios one last time. Alabama lose. Alabama win. So the top 9 remains the same. Alabama wins. BYU loses, hopefully by a decent margin. Duke wins so that you have the scenario of, hey, we might need to just get an ACC team in. I don't think you should care about the JMU scenario or maybe JMU winning. I think the main one, BYU lose. That's the first priority, obviously. Then I'll go maybe, I'll say Duke win, Alabama lose, in that order. If you have those 3, you should set up number 10 Notre Dame, number 11 Miami, 2 teams right next to each other. What happens? That's all I'm saying. Yeah, and then so I don't know. I'm really hoping I want to just see for chaos, all things chaos, those 2 teams right there. Notre Dame at 10, Miami at 11, Miami jump in. BYU lose, Duke win, Alabama lose. That's the scenario. That's what we're rooting for. Let's hope we get something. We have not gotten any luck over the last couple of weeks. We've gotten nothing, flat out nothing from other teams, from anything, from help from anyone. Texas Tech, let's root for. Let's root for Duke. Let's root for Georgia. You root for those 3 teams. If we go 3-0, you set up a doomsday scenario with the CFP. Hunter Yurachek and co. have to make some decision. They have to make some decision. Chaos. Thank you guys for tuning in. I guess we'll wrap it up right here. I also have to study for finals and everything. But thank you guys for tuning in. Me and Shay will be back on Monday, hopefully talking and breaking down A&M or whatever the committee decides. We'll see. Thank you guys for everything. And I'll see you guys on Monday. Peace.